Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 1 of Society's Daughter. I'm Stacy, and I'm truly excited to have you here. In this podcast, we'll be exploring how the astrological energies and themes of the current lunar cycle are unfolding, not just in the cosmos, but right here in the rhythm of everyday life. I'll be sharing how these energies are manifesting in my own world, offering you insights, reflections, and examples to help you tune into what's happening in your own world. Whether you're an avid astrology lover or just curious about the connection between cosmic energies and our lives, you are in the right place. We're currently working with a theme of innovation under the Aquarius lunar cycle. This cycle began with the new moon in Aquarius on January 29th and takes us through to February the 26th. How are we problem solving and coming up with brilliant, innovative ideas that will revolutionize our world? Well, in my world, this theme has most strongly come up in terms of the systems and the networks that I use behind the scenes to help me come up with the persona that I share with all of you. Aquarius rules the 12th and first houses of my birth chart, which deal with things that are beyond my control, what I can't see, how I move through major transitions in my life, and then how I show up in the world embarking on new cycles of development. What is my mission moving into this new cycle? I think that my mission is to show up with detached yet creative energy so that I can find ways to tweak the systems that I need to work with so that they work for me. I love the idea of working with a system, but I need to adjust it in true Aquarian fashion. This new moon is a potent new beginning for me. Its energy represents my self identity, my personality, and my physical appearance. With this lunar cycle, I'm literally entering a year of growth of self. It's very exciting, especially as I sit here in such an aligned and practiced place of trusting the process that I'm now sharing with all of you. When I think back, though, or when I take the time and I embrace and reach back into that 12th house energy, I can feel the undertones and frequencies of what's happening around the world. That is true Aquarian tendencies. I can detach and I can look at what's happening with my family groups and my friend groups to find ways to evolve all of our systems so that we can all improve for the greater good of everybody. But this is a practice that's been really trying for me in recent years. I had to experience some painful awareness around my worth and my value within the groupings that I thought that I was truly very strongly a part of. Right now, I'm releasing an old version of myself that can't come with me on this next stage of the journey. There are so many new things that have come, and a lot of the old things just don't fit anymore in what I want to do and how I want to show up. Under the energy of the new moon 2 weeks ago, I embarked on a road trip to northern Indiana with my puppy Nova to meet with the incredible team that's helping me to bring my new business Cycle Points to life. Together, we share a collective vision of launching the Maven's Call alongside our own individual offerings over the coming year or so, or many years. The Maven's Call is like a true Aquarius giving here for me to offer you an example of what Aquarius energy speaks to. It's dedicated to empowering women to share their gifts with the world by refining their visions through supportive education and one on one guidance. It's also a platform to help them navigate and establish the business and marketing aspects of their journeys. I could not have gotten where I am in the last 2 years without their beautiful guidance, without all of it. I needed to develop the confidence, and I needed to find my voice, and I needed a place to play in my creativity in order to then bring it into reality, which is where we are today. As a founding curator for Mavens, I see firsthand how our group's collaborative framework not only embodies the strength of a collective system, but also it allows the space for each of our own unique brilliances to shine. It's also super funny to me and very sinky that Abby and Jenna, the Mavens founders, were driving up separately at the beginning of the new moon when it was still in my 12th house of what's unknown to me. And they were there for a couple days putting together, tweaking all the pieces behind the scenes before I even got there so that they could deliver their presentation of where we're going and I can bring in what I'm going to bring to the table when I got there as well. Very cool. The moon's transition into Pisces over our weekend ring in our group spheres of what we're doing and also our individualized anxieties in how we are going to put ourselves out there throughout these launches. Are we actually going to be doing this? For me, these spheres spoke to how I value myself and what I have to offer. All the work that I've been creating over the last 2 years is finally going to be seen. How do I want it to look? all the work that I've done over myself over the last 4 years and this woman that I've become. How can I show up as her? There were dreamy moments of what's possible for the communities that we want to build. And there were also many beautiful ceremonies to release what is just not going to be able to come with us and look into the shadows of what's still hidden that we need to get over and find the courage to let go of. The weekend spoke to this coven that we've formed that holds our shared values and our dreams, plus the potential that we see to grow with other like minded people and expand on our values and our beliefs. This trip delivered on helping me step back into life as me again, having been on extended sabbatical, you could say, for the last 4 years. I was driving home with the moon entering Aries, illuminating my life arena of personal value and also highlighting my determination to create a life of value. Our group had our team Zoom meet on Monday to keep the embers lit. And with the moon's transit into Taurus at the end of this phase, I was also making some moves as to advancements on my physical appearance. I had my hair done, I had a skin appointment. This Aquarius new beginning was off to a brilliant start. And then came week 2. In my post for the update during the second week, I discussed that challenges arise during the first quarter moon that help us become aware of what needs to be worked on so that we can get to where we want to go or land where we need to land. For this current lunar cycle, those challenges were related to Taurus's energy of self-worth and the value of resources. This energy sits in my own life arena of self-worth and value, and it also covers my life arena of community, how I process information, learn from others, share with others, and then communicate it back so that we can all grow and work together in a collaborative way. And it also covers my home environment, plus like past life patterns and stories that have been hanging on that sort of need to be worked through and evolved. Last week, to say the least, was a doozy of challenges that when I was trying to get these creative energies that I want to come together and share with this new community that I'm trying to build. I was feeling overwhelmed by the expanse of it, and then I was feeling blocked. So that I think ultimately, as a way to get me to discern what's truly valuable moving into the next phase of the journey. What is it that I have to offer that others are going to find worthwhile? How can I make those offerings and be reflected through cycle points and also through my involvement and contributions with the Maven's Call? This came up as I was having to write out words for content that really described my self-worth and value and that of what I've been doing. And also it was challenged in terms of me coming up with a social media strategy, which is like so difficult and so just a lot. I haven't even had a social media account for the last 2 years ago or so. And so the idea of me regularly scheduling content is very daunting. The past life patterns that came up for me really have to do with the last chapter of this present life. And it goes back the 4 years that I've been kind of sitting back and reflecting and transforming my world. Back in 2020, I had a face and was sharing my life as a fitness instructor and a personal trainer online. And then during 2020 and 2021, that life started to fall apart and crumble and then eventually became dust and ashes. During that time, I was straying or started to stray more into sharing personal beliefs and my experiences because it was the beginning of this transformation that was happening. My values were sort of showing themselves, and the person that I wanted to become was starting to really be seen by myself for the first time as I started to shed certain layers and patterns and habits. And I didn't really feel that what I valued was wanting to be heard or seen by people anymore. And so by 2022, I decided that it was time to take myself off social media, and at least in terms of me having a presence, and then even in terms of me following people that were in my world. I really used it as more of a means as a distraction for a brief time and then not at all. And this was so that I could rediscover and redevelop a relationship that was more fitting to the person that I was becoming. The last 4 years, I took a lot of ego hits and had a lot of loss and across many different life arenas. But all of those things led me to where I have landed today. And all that being said, last week, it really did feel as if the strength that I've had and the endurance that I've built up were being tested in terms of like, can I commit to bringing all these visions to life? Is there a way that these will be seen and cherished and used by other people? Building this new community from scratch and showing up is going to be a huge feat. So, one of the systems that I have been working with to help explore my creativity and learn about all the things that I want to be learning about and sharing about and using in my processes, I've been experimenting with AI and coming up with this really great relationship that I can build and grow from. But it does take a lot of getting used to so that you can work with it and have a relationship that speaks to your own content, what you're creating, what comes from the heart, and all of that. And so last week or 2 weeks ago, when we were progressing from that Taurus energy, and I was feeling all of the scariness of having to put myself out there and what is the value of it all and what do I want it to look like, we moved into the energy of Gemini following that. And I started bringing it back out and open here in my house. And I opened it up to my husband about some of the struggles that I've been feeling. And he gave me a really excellent idea for refining my focus. Gemini energy itself in my chart covers my home environment and my creative expression. So, extremely fitting that this is how I brought myself out of this. Gemini is all about learning and communicating. Having communicated and processed with my husband and receiving his thoughts and developing some tips and tricks for how I might use the AI tools that I was using in a different way, I went back to my computer and tweaked my process yet again. So, this relationship I see more as a school of refinery, and there's this level of intimacy because it takes some digging to come up with those responses that are going to sing what it is that I want to share. But in true Aquarius fashion, I am finding this personal and individualized way to work with a system that was created for the greater good of society. So this brought my flow back, and then the moon was transitioning into Cancer last weekend. So I was taking care of the house and starting to create some structure around what my time needs to look like now that I have more of a clear vision as to all these goals that I have and how they need to roll out to really launch cycle points out there and collectively work with I have a course coming up and other things through Mavens. And so bringing all those things together. In my chart, Cancer highlights my creative expression. So, really, again, all of the things that I'm creating passionately about, I need to bring those together and protect them and set up some boundaries so that I can work on them and organize them, because it also moves into the area of my chart that covers how I manage my obligations, how I organize and structure those, and how I take care of myself and other people. In terms of my home community, bringing the Cancer with the Aquarius energy together, so my home community is my family. This came up for us as setting new programs and activities for schooling and a lot of summer planning for the kids. It came up with my husband joining a gym program to work with some of his issues. It came up with me further exploring some of the healing practitioners that I've been working with and developing my program on. And at the same time, over the course of the last few months, but definitely we're back at it now, we're also making improvements to our home. And so understanding what will meet our needs collectively has certainly been a central focus for us as a family. Working with and around the schedules of those that we're partnering with has also demonstrated that coming together for the common goal theme. During our meeting with our designer last week under the Cancer energy, Sinky, because we were doing things around the house and making it pretty, but that's besides the point. So during that moon, though, we actually didn't do a lot of doing. We did a lot of planning and setting boundaries and revisiting our budget and making sure that we could nurture all this beautiful creativity that we had in mind. And then the moon was shifting into Leo. But before we got to the full moon, we were actually in a position where we were still kind of working under that awareness of how we can improve that self expression of Leo. So, how can we improve upon how we want to show up in all of our groupings before we are then seen in that full light that came with the full moon? So, as the moon shifted into Leo at the start of last week, the lens for me shifted into my passionate self expression about how I care for myself. It covered my pride and how I manage the care of others, and also in how I show up authentically in my relationships and my partnerships. This one was spreading me a little bit thin because it really looks at like how I am very, very passionate about healing myself right now. I'm going to get into that. And then also how I do want to show up in my relationships and partnerships, how I would love to be able to help other people be healing and helping themselves. So I want to show up as someone who gives all of myself to another or others, and yet doing so oftentimes it means putting our own personal desires on hold or making certain concessions. So on this long-term scale that I work with, when I work with cycle points and over the year and different cycles over 4 years and more, right? Depending on what I'm looking at, on this long-term scale for me, I've made a commitment to heal my physical body and reconnect it to my sense of self and spirit over the next 18 months. That is a goal. And with the Aquarius new moon in this life arena, this new beginning in that has to do with my self identity and my physical body, this has only magnified and intensified that focus. In the last, I'd say, month or so, I've been working with a specific healing practice, and I've been getting this nudge that I know that there's healing seminars or these intensive dives that are possible that I can get into, where we're really doing like a lot of work over a short period of time, but it's cramped in there, and I have to take time off, and I would maybe have to travel and or whatever that looks like. At the same time, my husband's also had a lot of significant struggles that has to do with his physical health in the last year. And so, in my typical pattern that I work with, where I'm self sabotaging myself before I see it, I started to try to make what was valuable to me valuable to him in order to make my ideas happen. And that is a pattern of mine without kind of putting myself out there and allowing for that self expression of the other so that we can work together. I don't really think, I mean, it's not an overall pattern, but when I'm very passionate and I really want something, that can come up. And so I've discovered for myself, as we say that, what I'm passionate about when it comes to my healing is I need these immersive educational experiences. At the same time, I struggle with wanting to use money and time away and asking other people to help out so that I can do something that's important for myself. And this makes it really hard for me to claim something as an experience for myself. Also, that being said, I genuinely want to have a shared healing experience with my husband that improves our lifestyle and something that we can do regularly somewhat as we get older. It's something that I've decided not to let go of. And I really want to push that we have, you know, at least some kind of frequency with our wellness and connection that's incorporated into traveling time and time off. However, my version of healing and going to seminars and doing is, it's when you're looking at the Aquarius's overall theme of individuality as part of the greater group, I was met with the fact that that's not my husband's, ideal way of doing things. He might not be interested. He most definitely is not interested in participating in workshop seminars all day long as part of his healing journey. So, what's highly valued by me to spend our resources on might not be given the same priority from him. And so, our process has to morph. We have to learn to communicate what's truly valuable and important, and how can we express ourselves the way that we want to be seen in that, and we want to be loved by the other person and admired and respected for what is important to us. And we'll get there, but that was a little tricky in that moment, and I'll get to that a little after. During the Leo full moon, though, I also got to show up in my own accountability with one of my mentors from the Maven's Call, Jenna, and we were able to review and update what's come up within the last 2 weeks since we met in Indiana. And that was so great because I was able to share with her all the stuff that I've edited and what's come up since that I've now incorporated into what we're doing. And we also got to take the time to reflect on how we're being seen currently as we're starting to do little posts here and there on our various platforms. And then how, make sure this is how we want to be seen, or reflect back and ask how it is that we want to be seen when it comes to our social media, so that we can start to refine the systems that we're building. And, how are we going to direct our traffic and bring everything together? Chart wise, Jenna and I have very similar placements. So this was super interesting. And it was also very reassuring and fun for me, just on a syncy level, to hear some of the challenges that came up for her during the stretch of the cycle as well. At the end of the week, the moon was transitioning into Virgo, and that's shifted the lens into how I care for and structure my relationships, as well as the resources that I have to share with other people. So this was funny because Thursday we had a snow day. We woke up and there was so much snow, and I was unable to get out of my driveway. I was unable to get to a follow-up appointment that I was supposed to do that I'll get to that in a minute. There was so many things that came up. So Thursday for us was a snow day, and it was also the beginning of a now 5-day long weekend for my kiddos. And that absolutely required shifting of my mental and physical energy to adapt how I thought my day and days now were going to go. There was certainly less creative time and a lot more shoveling involved. But I was able to do my regular Zoom meet with my other mentor from the Maven's Call, who's Abby. And she and I were able to edit and format some of my creations, which is her specialty with me. We also were able to take some time for me to problem solve around ways that I can meet my goals of having some kind of educational healing experience while also doing this layered healing on multiple levels with my husband. How can we make both of our dreams happen? How can I go and do something that's educational and still heal and learn something from it that I can bring forth into what I'm doing? And how can I also afford time wise, money wise, all those ways to go and have a vacation with my husband and figure out who's going to watch our children and what that's going to look like so that we can go and have some healing. So that was really curious. And so once Abby and I were able to sit with that and kind of walk through it with our little eagle eye perspective, taking us out and taking what, all my wants, my passions and my ego out of it so that we can look at it. We do that really well together. And when I was able to do that, it opened up possibilities that I wasn't even seeing in terms of opportunity. So I'm excited to see how that's going to continue to pan out. And this weekend, the moon is now in Libra. And where for me, that focus strictly moves into how I communicate in my partnerships regarding the sharing of my resources with other people, which is really cool. And in the theme of Aquarius, how can I think outside of the box and without emotional or egoic ties, as I was just talking about, to share my resources in ways that will foster growth for everybody? So this has come up in so many different ways for me. I've already been planting those seeds and creating some action steps that I need to take to make some of those healing things possible. We'll see where they land. I think I might be able to partner with not just my husband, but with another one of my favorite people to make something happen on two different things. So that's even more incredible. And then another way that ties back to my personal physical advancements and what I'm working on right now, in terms of my health and my physical appearance. And then again, how I contribute to the community that I live within. This weekend, I being held accountable for a procedure that I had 2 weeks ago. I have a follow-up appointment with somebody new that I just started working with, and I hope that we get to start working together regularly. I think that we will. So she's being held accountable for her work on my face, and I'm being held accountable in terms of how my skin responds to her work on my face. And I just think that's really funny and shows how the merging of community and personalized goals have come together for me this weekend, amongst many other ways. So as we're working with the harmonizing energies of Libra over the weekend, the way that we're speaking with each other, the way that we're communicating our ideas and sharing our resources together, we can start to discover some balance and meet each other halfway. And I'm hoping for me that it will, at least get me jump started on where I'm going with that journey. As the moon shifts from Libra into Scorpio, though, we might start to struggle a little bit with letting go of what we wanted about some of the ideas, the outcomes that we were hoping for, maybe even control over what we're doing, right? There's a lot that comes up with Scorpio in terms of sharing our assets with other people. Maybe for me, the dates don't work out, or I can't get people to help out with the kids. That would be very Scorpio in terms of spreading my resources, finding out how we can do things for one another and make it all work. So and transform. There's a lot of that. And that's very, actually, that's heavy that I can't drag up all that stuff. But there would be, in terms of watching my kids, that speaks to a lot of stuff that I've worked through over the last 4 years. And, a lot of transformation that's taken place in order for us to work around that. So also, there might be other concessions that come up in order to free up different kinds of resources. In my chart, Scorpio symbolizes how I transform through sharing resources and how I transform through expanding on my beliefs and values. And also, Scorpio is how I transform, how my transformations become the legacy that I'm leaving behind, which I think that most people that know me would probably say that that is very true. And Scorpio in the zodiac chart is opposite to Taurus. So these energies very much play on what was coming up at the start of this cycle in terms of me letting go releasing any, like holding on to and not giving away my power by sharing my beliefs and my values because of the fear of how that will be taken, or because of the experiences that I went through recently through my transformation. This episode is Society's Daughter's debut. She came into my dreams at the start of my dark night so many years ago, and is now feeling whole enough to share the gifts that she's discovered. And that's a really big deal for me. And that Scorpio energy takes us into the last quarter moon next week, which is all about making choices as to how we want to continue to work with and grow within all of our groups. And then also what it is that we're going to not be bringing with us because it's no longer helpful to what it is that we want to grow. And this Scorpio last quarter moon is really at the tail end, and it's shared with Sagittarius's energy. And Sagittarius is the explorer. Sagittarius wants to learn and evolve and grow and philosophize and all of those things. And so when we release some control through Scorpio and we start to make those choices, because we've been able to release Sagittarius energy is really there to shine the light on all the potential that might be out there for us to work with as we're making these choices. And it's also a choice point for Sagittarius energy itself, in terms of the ways that we want to go after and explore how we're going to continue to offer our beliefs to our communities and our contributions within them. And this will set us up for choosing how to create some solidity around our plans, with a bit of a framework, a bit of an idea as to how we're going to get there as the moon starts to transition into Capricorn. So Capricorn is really about how can we build this into our foundation. So once we've released what we don't need to bring with us, and now that we have that telescope and that lens out there as to what it is that we want to expand our knowledge on, so that we can bring that back to our groupings and our communities, now we can really start to look with that Capricorn energy about grounding it in and building it into our foundation. And the last stop of this lunar cycle, we will go back into Aquarius. We will take these contributions and our ideas so that we can start to move forward with our groups, and we can start to continue to build out the rest of this cycle, which is not just within these 4 weeks, but it will go into the next lunar cycle that we have in Aquarius, which will be in 11 months from now. And that is the entire cycle. We shall see how all of my storylines play out, and I will definitely fill you in at the start of the next episode. I can say, though, that I think I have a pretty good bird's eye view at the moment to help me keep perspective and keep my focus clear. And now, dear listeners, I turn the table to you. I'd love to hear how these energies are playing out in your worlds, and I'm super curious what connections were made for you as I was trying to weave how they are coming up in my world. How do we work individually within our communities in order to come up with innovative advancements, not just for ourselves, but for all of us collectively? If you enjoyed this podcast and you're looking for more ways that you can interact with me, then you can find my monthly lunar cycle videos over on YouTube. Those videos are posted the week before the new moon to set up the energetics in your calendars. I also post educational tips and weekly updates through videos on art and articles on Substack. And Society's Daughters episodes will be released the week of the full moon each month. The next episode is going to be focused on how we're showing up to establish new systems and routines for managing our ideals and our visions. It's my intention to grow this community with your feedback and personal stories as well. Post a comment to this episode with your sun sign and a description of where you feel a heavy need for release in order to grow into possible potential, and I'll incorporate that into next month's podcast. Until then, I hope to see you across Instagram, YouTube, and Substack. Take care for now.